I don't know if Kara's coming into, I think she's out of town, she had said when she posted the agenda, but I thought she was going to call in. But I mean, I guess we can
Yeah.
get started.
So we got 4 now
We
anyway,
got 4,
so,
so we're good. Legally, we're good.
yeah,
I mean, morally, we decided 3 was good, right? But legally 4 is good.
as long as we can, Amy to the seat here until.
Yeah, so, Amy has indicated she will be tendering her resignation at a future date,
Yeah,
not right now.
Understood. And I think, we had spoken last time about less frequent meetings or potentially a hiatus for the committee as we, kind of the tax implications coming up over the next year or two, probably with that might be worth discussing what makes sense.
Does seem like we are chasing a train that is increasing its speed daily of trying to get any money to do this. So.
I actually, I have a lot to say. I've been working on some things that I want to go over
Well,
when we get to it. I think I'm on the agenda.
are they as part of the? Are they as part of the? Is most of it related to your spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes,
So there's
we'll get
no.
to that.
Well, we can get to it then if you don't want to do it.
Yeah,
during
no, that's fine.
All right, well, I guess
But
we'll kick the meeting off then.
Yeah.
Any public comment? Well, I guess welcome to the February 12th Town Center.
We did have
Center and
two-
Library Committee.
We did have two people come to our meeting here
Oh,
a couple of weeks ago, a couple of people from Radiate Art, but.
Hey, that's great. So I'm assuming there's no public comment since there is no public. Does anyone have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Well, I would like to talk about this public meeting thing that I watched the
Do
thing.
you want to add that as an item, or do you just want to?
Well, whatever
Why
works.
don't we add it right at the beginning then?
Right.
It's fresh. We'll add it as a
Right.
item 0.
So the one thing that we just about talked about, that a quorum of our meeting is a quorum of the entire listed committee, including the empty seats. So
Yeah.
with a 7-member meeting, we need 4, which is different than what we've done. The other things that meeting, that.
Mike, I'm gonna take some notes of this and send
Okay.
an email to the select board quick, because it's gonna be important that we
Yeah.
reduce that committee size, I think. At some point, so I'm just gonna send some notes to myself and to all of us so that we get it on an agenda.
The other thing that they said that we've kind of known, that strings of emails that involved a quorum are also not.
Yeah, they're okay
legal.
for planning purposes.
Yeah, except for organizing or scheduling a meeting, organizing the agenda for a future meeting, or this I didn't know, distributing materials to be discussed at a future meeting. So I know that at sometimes I put out an agenda once. I wasn't sure we'd missed a meeting or two because I didn't get it. And so I didn't have any authority to do that. And so I just sent it to everybody and says, anybody, so if anybody objected, they could. And Kara told me, oh, you shouldn't have done that. And I think that was
I
okay.
think you're allowed to send stuff. It's just the ongoing responses back and forth, so.
Yeah,
you can't
I don't-
discuss over
yeah.
email.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. The other thing, minutes of the meeting have to be, a draft should be put on the website within 5 days of
Okay.
the meeting.
We're not on, yeah. we're not-
And we've been waiting at least until the next meeting to approve it before we send it to be put up. But my wife actually is on a different committee and she's doing minutes for the park committee. She called the the Secretary of State's office this morning for clarification that you can send the minutes to the meeting out to the entire committee to see if there's any changes and so
For
forth.
comment.
And they can send it back to that person, but they shouldn't do a return to all. They should go just single people back,
It's not
as long as you didn't
discussion.
get into a discussion, that was okay.
And you can post them as a draft, right?
And you can post them as a draft,
And then you
and then people can change them if they feel that something's missing.
Yeah.
And then at the meeting, you should have the final one to
Yeah.
approve. So those are, and there's times like, I've got a couple of spreadsheets I want to here, and I think could have, I thought about doing it, but I thought I'd come here first and talk about it. That I think I could have sent those out to the committee and to Duncan to be put on, and I sent them to Duncan. And I think Duncan missed one of them, put one of them on twice, so I don't have everything up there right now, but I have some copies of it. When we get to that. So that's what I had to say about the open meeting laws.
I'm just sorry to send Josh an email, so. All right. Let's spell Josh correctly. Cool.
I hate it when I can't spell things close enough, this why check will find them.
Is there anything else you have on that, Mike?
Not on that, I
Matt, you got anything good? We're just gonna send Josh a request to reduce the committee size to 5, which keeps us chugging. We talked about doing meetings only as, you know, as needed as we have action items and we need to regroup instead of the twice a month. So I think we're down to once a month now, right? As
We're down to once a month, you know, and
And as
yeah,
needed, we could go back up to 2 if
Right,
we needed
right,
to. We could skip
right,
an entire month if needed.
right. That sounds fine. I hope after I do mine, we'll find something to do here, but we'll see.
So the next item on the agenda would be. Oh, review, I think that's the OPM. Yeah, OPM. So review the RFP recommendations, so I think we have some stuff in here if we fill it out. What, is that an email? I saw it. Anyway, so I think Duncan's he's still busy doing stuff, right? So he hasn't got to the,
So that, okay, I was trying to remember what that was. So that came as on guy.
yes,
Okay.
or, yeah.
Or someone else,
We're gonna
or
put
someone
an
else.
RFP to include I think. his
Yeah,
names in.
yeah, yeah.
I think Duncan's still pretty busy doing
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
He's still assigned.
And
so
I
This
think
isn't
maybe,
the highest priority.
we'll get to that a little more when I get there, but I think, what he was given was Art's thing and says, make that into an RFP. And I'm not sure that's exactly what we're looking for, so I think maybe he needs a little help in getting that
Yeah.
put together at some point.
Do we? I guess the first step would be to close the loop with Duncan and see what his time
Yeah.
availability is, right?
Mhm.
I think that's. And then once we do that, we can figure out if someone else will sit down with them and.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine it'll take a ton of time to hash that all out.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, he had in his thing, a process of getting through the whole thing. And we may not go exactly like, in my opinion, exactly the way
Yeah.
he had things laid out.
Matt, you got any ideas on that? I mean, I think we like Art's process somewhat, but we want, we're doing the RFP, we don't wanna request someone bidding. Or I guess not bidding, but giving us a proposal specifically for that process, if they have an alternate in mind. You got any
Yeah.
ideas of how we reconcile those two things?
I think we did take down from the website his proposal that had all this
Yeah.
costs and so forth in there for
Yeah, I
making
think
public, which was probably.
I'm not sure it was actually ever put up, which is good.
Yeah, did it go up?
I thought it did at one meeting. but
Kara
I-
thought it went up or.
Maybe.
we all
I
felt-
looked and it wasn't there, and I
I could never
assumed-
find it either.
Yeah, so maybe it never made it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, same with me. I scoured as well. I didn't see it. I think we just didn't get it up, which is great.
Very well hidden.
You know,
Yeah,
I
so-
think for an RFP, what we usually like to do is put a plan together that we're happy with, put that into a request for proposal and then send that out.
Yeah,
That's usually what I'm used to. And then, we get
And
good
I'm-
proposals back, we can dive into statements of work and such.
And I may have a beginning of some of that here, hopefully.
Instead of asking Amy to ask Duncan, I'm gonna. email directly, so you're not-
Probably gonna go faster.
Yeah.
They're pretty slammed, I think, through town meeting, so it
Yeah.
might not be something
I
that
think it's
they've
gonna
got.
really get pushed, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
at least. I think it calms down at the day before town meeting, right?
Yes,
That's better.
yeah.
Yeah,
Although with the new person coming on to take over for Linda, there'll be some
That'll be-
transition there too.
yeah,
That's
because-
gonna kick a lot of
Yeah.
stuff on the people, just as.
Yeah,
Just
just,
start to speed, whether that ends up being, I guess we have 2 people, right, so.
but we might
Yeah,
wanna
so-
write like the scope of work that
Yeah.
we're looking for.
Yeah, I
for
think-
the
I think
RFP,
so.
and not leave that to Duncan and Josh.
Right.
No,
I
think we need to
absolutely
write
agree,
scope
and I-
And then put it, have them help us put it into an RFP.
Right.
So. How do we wanna tackle that? I mean, I don't think we need to put together an
Okay.
entire RFP, obviously, but we need to have a pretty clear idea of what we
Okay.
want the scope to be.
can we come back to that after I do my stuff?
Yeah, you wanna look back on that?
Yeah,
Alright, let's move on, so, for the security, all we have are the files, I haven't talked to Kara about this, and I think she was pushing a lot of this, right, so I just don't have any. I don't have any like, I don't have any idea what's going on here, aside from the info we have in the packet,
right,
but we can review this, have you had a chance to look at it?
but,
These are the
This-
ones
this-
we've had for a while, right? Were these the
Yeah, I think
two?
these are
Yeah,
the
these
ones
were the
we've
two
had,
bids, I think,
so-
that we've looked at, so.
I mean, I'm not sure what more info.
but,
Oh, here, maybe. This is pretty useful for you, isn't it, Mike?
yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
I think with these, we had to just decide what we actually wanted, because these included a bunch of security options too, right?
yes,
And we weren't sure if we wanted all of
So-
those different options.
Oh.
yeah, so I mean, is this, we had talked about figuring it out,
I don't think I've seen or something.
weren't we talking about kind of closing the loop with. Town with Josh and crew to see what they really need, and I haven't done that, I haven't pushed that at all, so. As far as, oh, sorry, Mike, I'm moving it on you,
No,
as far as I'm aware, I don't think we have any more info now than we had last time, so as much as we would probably like, should make a call on this, I don't think we really. Can, is that? Anyone else know anything more about this, anyone else have anything?
Because my recollection was in some of these, we had to make a decision about what level or what kind of security features we wanted, whether we wanted like the wireless swipe card
Yeah.
high-end system, or whether we just wanted replacement doors with keys,
Yeah.
or, and I
Yeah.
think there were all kinds of different possibilities in.
Yeah, and
In
what
these,
doors would be secured
um,
how?
And and we also were talking about how many doors, like were we having just the exterior doors? Or were we wanting
Right,
replacement
right.
doors for
Okay,
all
we
the
had this
interiors
conversation,
as
yeah,
well?
So we would need to, I mean, I don't think this is a decision we're gonna make, right? This is gonna be either Josh and crew or.
I
select board
would
decision.
think so.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of thing,
We meet here once a month,
It's a-
like, as
yeah,
a committee,
right.
so,
right, and,
so who do we? And I'm sure we talked about this, so short of pulling up the minutes. Who do we want to, what's the process we wanna go through to decide this?
I guess where we do get involved, or maybe should, is if they're gonna spend money out of the maintenance fund to do whatever we do there. And so if we're looking at other places to spend that,
So what if?
we ought to know what was going on anyway, but.
What if we kick this down and we don't decide, and we just say. We ask. Josh or someone, not, I guess, asking Josh specifically to do
Yeah,
this, but
I mean-
ask them to decide what they want and we can talk to them.
Who asked for this?
I think this was, I honestly, I don't remember how this came out, Mike.
You know, I mean, if it
I
was,
have ideas in
if
my
it was,
head, but I don't think
I
it-
assume it was some, we never did, so I'm assuming it was Josh and
Yeah,
someone down in that level that would have, and you haven't heard the select board,
it hasn't,
coming out.
it hasn't come to the select board's attention, which I guess it would need to spend the money, right?
right,
Yeah, is the question for us? Like, I guess it's relevant, in my opinion, it's relevant to us if they're saying this is outside of maintenance budget scope, and we would like you to include this in your recommendation for the building work. And if it's within the maintenance budget scope, then I think it's just they can kind of plan it as they will.
Yeah, that's a good distinction. If it's maintenance, and if it's of the magnitude that it would be maintenance and not changing the building, or it's not a capital expenditure, then we don't need to know about it really at all. And if it is a capital expenditure, I guess the only reason we want to know about it is to ensure that we're not redoing work that we might be touching in the future.
And, you know, there was, in the Black River proposal that went out, I believe there was, you know, that was as part of it. And so what gonna be part of,
So I
what
guess
we might do in
we
the
kick
future
this
could be-
back to whoever is requesting it and say, come up with a proposal of what you want. If it's
Yeah.
gonna involve rehabbing
Right.
any part of the building, please send it back to us for
right,
review.
right? If I remember, I
Does that seem
think
reasonable?
Kara talked to someone that said, you know, they wanted to put security on some of the offices, the town managers and whatever down there, and the doors that were there didn't work, so they had to, we would have to put new doors in and not really use them and so forth, so. Some of that,
Let's see.
probably works into
Yeah.
where we have to be
I
involved.
just don't know who to kick it back to, I guess, is my only holdup. I don't know who requested it specifically, so I don't know who to.
I think you
Probably
start,
Josh.
I would start with Josh.
Yeah. And just looking at like one of these bids, and I think this was the one that was
Who they
for
addressed.
all kinds of doors, is $71,882 plus another 5,000 roughly for the video surveillance system, so that's probably why it's come to us, just because of
Yeah.
the price.
And so the
Yeah.
cheaper one is still.
Cheaper one is,
45,000 about.
Yeah.
It is 45,000.
but these may also be looking at all the doors in the building too,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
think we may
Yeah.
or may not need, so.
Alright, so on this one, we're gonna kick it back to Josh, or we're gonna tell him he can delegate that
Yeah.
decision however he wants.
Or
and it's
or if he
gonna-
wants something from us, tell us specifically
specifically
what he wants,
because we don't know.
yeah.
Okay. So notice it, when you pull up another, you just shoot all these emails off, because as you all are aware, by saying I'm gonna do things, then I forget. And then do it. The good news is this stands for everything in my life. It's not just this. So somehow I've managed to not go bankrupt.
My guess is they're saying, hey, heads up, this is something we'd like if we're doing an overhaul of the building, but I think clarification is really.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm assuming, because of the magnitude of because of the dollar amounts, they want our input, but we would like to, I guess we would like to know what input they specifically want, right?
Yep, or if it's just a heads up, here's a cost we have to consider.
Sure, it is a tricky one.
But Mike, you said, is the document, the Excel spreadsheet and the PDF the same
I
document?
believe it is.
Okay, so it's just different copies.
Different versions of the same thing, and then there was another one that I sent, I think he had them all there, and
Okay.
he grabbed two. And he probably converted I sent it to him just as an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay,
He must have converted it to the PDF, and then he
Yeah.
got confused and
Yeah.
put both of them out, right, but that's fine, we can. I think I have copies enough here for everybody that sent this.
yeah, I can
Well,
open the
okay.
spreadsheet, I just had to convert it to a Google, and probably it's a PDF on the website, just so if you don't have Excel, you can still open it.
Yeah.
But then
Plus
you
it's
you
one,
can't
plus
manipulate
it's
it.
one people can.
Yeah.
I think mostly what they put
Okay.
is in that form. but my wife was sending him stuff for her meeting and
Oh,
she was
okay.
having a hard time converting it into. We finally figured out how to get it converted into PDF
Mhm.
and then he says, why didn't you just send me the other one? Because.
Right, I said to Josh, as we received the bids and reviewed them, what specifically should the TCL committee be considering, or what action do you need from us? We do not believe we're in a position to recommend an option, however, if the bid and add alternates are selected, we're happy to review to ensure they are not duplicating work for future projects.
Yep, sounds good.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Josh is gonna be at home right now this week.
Mm.
I'm sure that's probably the case anyway, right? So. All right, I guess next we're on to Mike's Storrs spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah, good.
Yeah,
Okay,
and back to, I guess, after that,
yeah,
back to one.
yeah, back to one, I think, okay. I made notes, so I remember, some say here. You know, we've been on this for almost a year now,
Yeah.
and, can anybody
Almost done, right?
Can anybody think of anything we've accomplished? You know, it's been kind of slow, but anyway. I tried to reorganize things a little bit, just to clear it in my mind, and I think it could, hopefully, it might be helpful to others as well. I made a couple of spreadsheets. The first one, I took the Black River proposal. And I found in some of that pile of stuff, they gave us a spreadsheet that's fairly detailed. Although it was a few months, it was August of 23, so they made some revisions to it after that before it went to the bond. But I went through it and it stuff was all over the place. You couldn't figure out what really was. So I started with windows. How much did it cost for the windows? And, you know, new panel windows are $181,000 in brick bulb, but then, you know, take out the old windows was somewhere else. And that came out to be more than the windows was 193,270. And then there's a little trim and painting and so forth. Well, I moved all of those things in one place, so we can say this is what it costs to replace the windows. It came out $428,570. That's what they had in there. Then I went to the heating and ventilating system and again moved things up, and I kept going down through that list until there's something about the elevator, sprinkler system, fire alarm. There is a thing for security, exterior door card readers and so forth were part of that proposal. That all of their security came up to 47,000 something. Putting a new electrical entrance into the building, it went from the 400 amps up to the 600 amp three-phase. Presume, I don't know why, but run some of the new equipment, I assume.
Seems logical, right?
Yeah. Through the fire escape tower. So several pages of my thing here. And that came out to $409,000. Something about fire, something, it was $50,000 for air sealing. I don't know exactly what that meant. There's some work on the vault. Post office roof. The
What was
flood,
the spare tower? Just, sorry,
409, I think it was.
gotcha.
Flood mitigation. Basically, that was bombing the post office and building it again. That also went on for pages. And then for the historic building, I actually think they missed some things unless that was what they added in. Because in the write-ups, they said they were going to dig down the bottom of the foundation on everything and coat it to seal it up and so forth. And found costs for that for the post office, for the vault and for the new stair tower, but not for the main building. They also said they were gonna put flood vents in the windows, and I didn't see any costs for those or any description of what those would be either, so. I think they may have added that in, because I know there were some changes. And then the interior changes, they were gonna bomb this building too, and spend, what was it, something like that. So, $1.6 million, putting this one back together again. And this, so that's basically, you know, it gave me an idea of where the costs from the original proposal. some of the costs in there, I think are valid, you know, that we can use to, as an estimate of what it would cost for a new heating system. I don't see any reason why, I think the estimates they put in here, I have no reason to believe are not as good as anybody could do for the work that they were proposing. It's the scale of the work that we need to work on. So that was my first spreadsheet. The second one, I tried to figure out what's wrong with the building that we need to fix.
Seems like
I-
this is a longer spreadsheet.
Yeah, well, yes. Kara had gone through, she had a list that she had gone through with Duncan and some other people in the building and asking everybody in here what's wrong with it. And had a pretty long list of people's comments in there. But her list was kind of like the spreadsheet. They were, 8 different people said that we had drafty windows and, and so forth. So I went through those and tried to consolidate it and reword it a little bit, hopefully capturing what people were looking for all of those. And I made that into the list. And then I went back to the Black River stuff here and say, what else were they trying to fix? And added those on, and then I went to the old bread loaf one.
Yeah.
And went through that, and it turns out we had pretty much all of that covered. The only thing I found there was some things in the basement, which Black River didn't address, because they were gonna move everything out of there anyway. So there were a couple of things there that the boiler room should be fireproofed, and there's some ADA requirements down there and so forth. So that's what I've got in the second one, as to what's there. So from that, I said, okay, I think at some point we need to go back to the voters and ask for money. But a whole lot less money than what we asked for last time. And just looking through from that list, I went through, the heating, ventilating, the air conditioning was, I rounded these all up to the next higher $1,000. It was 805,000 for the heating, ventilating, air conditioning, sprinkler system, 157, fire alarm, 102, electrical entrance was 54, post office roof was 243. All of those added up came to $1,361,000. And then there were some other things that I think we should need to do, but I think we need to take a close look at, get the price down considerably from what they had proposed.
Which things do you have in mind?
Fire escape, $410,000. They had proposed starting off by digging a hole in the ground out there, 10 foot deep, 20 by 13. And building a tower up the side of the building that's heated, insulated, finished on the inside with a sprinkler system. And from what Amy said at the previous meeting, it was intended to be more than a fire escape, but a second stairway to be used for the building, which is steps away from the one we've got. I think we need to go back and see what it costs to get a fire escape, in which I think will be a whole lot less.
Draw the line at. Kind of like what regulatory meets.
Yeah,
requirement.
right, I'm sure there's I looked, I couldn't find it, but I'm sure there's a code somewhere that says how you have to build a fire escape. My first thought was, we'll make a door to get out to the one we got now. The problem with that is, even though I'm sure there's some code that says that will work, the deck on the other one is about halfway between that window and the floor. And right now, the way you do it is you open that window and climb out onto it. And I don't know if you can get that window open or not. It's over there. And whether the ladies from the senior center can be out here,
Right,
so
and how
I'm not sure. So, something needs to be, and I looked, said, well, could we modify that and lower it down, and the vault roof gets in the way, so it's complicated, but we need somebody that has the expertise to know what the rules are to design this new fire escape or whatever to get that done. The next one is 838,000 for the flooding issues. When Art was in here, he said that, what they proposed here was, was to dig up all the way around the building and all of the buildings, code everything, tear up the sidewalks, the plaza in front of the post office, the ramp on the back of the post office, fix the wall back there. Then got the inside of the post office, fill it up with sand, build that all back up, and then after you waterproof this building, you put holes in the wall to let the water. It just seems like there. And what Art said when he was here was he didn't believe that Black River or anybody else in Vermont had a lot of experience dealing with this kind of thing. He says any of the engineering firms, you know, this can't be their focus. This might be, but he knew people that did, and like he worked with people in Waterbury, I believe, where he said there was a company from Boston that worked with a local company to figure out what they needed. So I think we need another look at what's really required here. And
sorry, bring the zoom up, make sure we don't have anything in there.
so that's the second thing on there. The windows, again, we got 429,000. Once they put all the escalators up, it was like 590 something that at the level that went to the bond. I'm on for the next one. Maybe we could do something cheaper about that as well. And then the building modifications, they basically started with a clean sheet of paper, take down all the walls and put them wherever they were good. Looking at what we really need to change, I think there were two things from the list here that we need to get we find a way to get Duncan out of his closet. We need to get the town manager, assistant manager, and their temporary, part-time, whatever employee somewhere near each other. And the zoning people have asked for some private offices. They want us to put walls up in there so they have quiet rooms and so forth to do it. And from the Black River notes, one of the criteria that they were using was that the town employees all wanted to stay on the first floor. And I think that's unreasonable. I mean, I don't think if somebody has to walk down 5 stairs to talk to somebody, I worked in a building that was 4 stories high with outbuildings, and there were people, and I had to walk to go find them. This is very far away.
It also seems like, we got a lot of room down there in that zoning office, there's like square footage, there's
So,
plenty of square footage.
I wish we were sitting in the other room, because my suggestion is, there's 3 offices that should go on that wall over there. Bring them up here, make a few walls out where that room is and divide it up, and maybe we can bring some other town employees up with them into that space. That's really laid out terribly. And get them out of there, and then
Seems like,
when moving things around, find a place for Josh and Duncan and so forth to sit together. I think there's a very few walls that need to be torn down and moved up.
seems like we're bumping up against our, level of expertise from like an architectural and
Right.
compliance standpoint.
So we need to get Black River and some company back
Black
involved
River,
again, or somebody like that back involved again.
and
But
kind of
I think,
re-aim
with-
our scope.
but with a little more supervision than they had before, to saying, we aren't gonna lay out and
Set
make
new
pictures, but
Set new expectations.
we
based on
can
Right,
certainly.
I think they went with what the committee
Yeah.
asked them to do. We said, hey, we
Right.
wanna do a complete renovation,
Right.
and so that's what they gave
Now
us,
we're-
and now we can say, okay, we can't do a complete
Like,
renovation.
Right,
Here's the parameters we
So
need you
what-
to design
so-
within.
I think all your points are good.
So-
I agree with basically all of them. I also don't know a lot of the answers, obviously, and I don't think anyone here does.
right,
So what direction do we wanna go with this?
okay, so that's my next page.
Well, just real quick, just to pose the argument, and I think Josh and Duncan are great. But if our mission or our kind of goal here is to ensure the asset for future use, we might not even consider comfort of employees. We might consider just ensuring the asset. And I could argue that means that internal walls for comfort, right? Not there's a level here, but kind of for comfort of offices might not be in our purview. We may decide that.
Yeah, we may decide that. And in what I put down here, I intend to be a beginning to start talking. I mean, and anything here can change.
Yeah,
But so where do we go from here? I think the first thing is to get Campbell's Hump and our, or somebody, I want him actually, but,
okay,
because I think he did have some contacts into, maybe other people do too, I don't know, but we need to get somebody on board there. We need to re-engage with Black River, or, it doesn't have to be Black River, but they have an awful lot of stuff
they have a lot of
already.
background knowledge.
And I don't know that what they did, we just said, was necessarily bad, except I think they didn't do a great job of communicating everything they were doing. It was that, that was the direction they were going in, and they did it. After we get them to, we need to get a second opinion on the flooding issues and a new design of the fire escape, and then work with the town employees and the police department and so forth about what changes we might want to make in the building. The post office also, I'd heard somewhere that the post office asked for some minor changes. I don't know what they were, but we want to talk to them. And then with all of them, then review the remaining issues that I've got on this list, which was a lot of the stuff that Tara had here, that the ceiling tiles are dirty and whatever. And basically prioritize them and say, and start chipping away on them with whatever money we've got in the building fund, and as it comes up and so forth, to finish off the rest of them. The thing that it is,
I'm not ignoring you.
Yeah,
Anything
yeah.
else?
the thing that is not addressed anywhere here is I don't see a place to put radiate art other than the basement. I just can't see where there's space around. One of the other comments that came from a lot of people was that they'd like to see a larger space where they could have meetings, votes, whatever, down here, and getting zoning out of that front office down here kind of fills out.
Yeah, I
need
go
as
to the-
well.
I go to the library a lot. I have twin 3-year-olds. I think a space that we should consider and talk about, and I don't know how frequently radiation operates, but there's that large empty kind of chapel in the library that, I feel like we should at least discuss the merits of that being a radiate art space.
That
Yeah.
room is used heavily by the community in various groups.
Yeah.
It can't be devoted just to
Yeah,
radiate.
Radiate is, I think, has classes there almost every day. And they want more people in there, so I don't know. That's when we had the two people from Radiate that came to our meeting, we told them that the select board had directed us that we should include Radiate in whatever we were doing. And Kara popped that, but not necessarily in this building, so I don't know.
I don't,
I don't know
if there
where
was
else.
another building that centrally located with similar or better
No,
space in
no,
town,
no.
if there was, I don't think Radiant would be opposed to going there.
Yeah.
But that building doesn't exist.
Right.
This is the spot.
You're right, so this is it, so
Unless
that's,
we specifically make a space for them elsewhere.
yeah, but
there will not be.
making a space in this build, I mean, as I say, I think we can fix some of the issues that most people have here with very minor changes, but to find a place big enough for them is gonna take a major rebuild of things.
So to your previous thing, Matt, I think. I mean, I know, yeah, that space, I think that space over there is empty often, but when it is used, it's. Critical that it's big enough and it's accessible. It's used for like special town meetings and stuff. That's the space because we can't use the school on off days. So I guess a bare minimum we would have to identify a similar place that was that large, that was accessible to the community to host events like that. It seems like a tall order, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm not opposed to talking about it, but I also don't know if I have the.
We don't have control over that space
Yeah.
in the library. That's the purvey of the library
Right,
trustees and the
right,
librarian, and that
And-
space is used
Gotcha.
for
Yeah,
a number of other,
yeah.
that's not our space to
Yeah.
decide about.
So,
The other thing, though, was that, we needed to move them out of the basement based on the plan we had for the flood. we need to take another look, maybe we can seal the basement up good enough, they can stay where they are,
And I think we only had to move them out of the basement if we were renovating the building to such an extent that we triggered
yeah,
a percent, so if we're not renovating quite as much, we may not.
That's a good
Yeah,
point.
we may not have to.
I mean,
Yeah, it's
worry
like
about them being in
50%
the
or
basement.
whatever.
Yeah. 50% of the
Yeah.
value of the building, and so what's the building worth? I have no clue.
Easily $100 million, right?
Huh?
That's what we do. You play the game where we get an appraisal and we,
Yeah,
I mean,
so, yeah,
and we work to that,
Yeah.
we know our threshold.
right, yeah, we know this is gonna cost
Yeah.
$5 million, so the building must be worth 10, you know? So,
Yeah.
so that,
We need to get so to really make progress on this stuff, we need to get our OPM RFP out.
Yeah.
And we need to kind of start seriously wrangling with getting Black River or someone with equivalent skills and
Yeah.
on board.
Yeah.
So that we can have these conversations and they can vet them from a
yeah, now you and Matt talked to Black River, didn't you, at the beginning of this? And see
right,
what-
right at the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're on board to help. I know they're on board to help us. I think they would want. They know that the proposal came up last time. Obviously, we're not gonna resubmit for
Yeah.
the bond vote.
Right.
So I think that they would come in expecting clear direction on what changes we wanna make.
Right,
And we would have to provide that. And it sounds like we're in a position that we wanna provide that. So I don't think
Right.
there's going to be any issue there. I don't know what the process is. I guess we would have to request. We would have to do another RFP from them. I don't think we could just extend the contract at this
We
point.
might still have a little bit, I mean, this would be a good question for Josh, there might still be a little bit of money left in their original contract and. We had heard from John Himmelgarn, who's the head
Yeah.
of Black River, and he was actually wondering, he's like, we haven't heard anything from you, we didn't know where the project was, and they did just get a big bid from the Colchester School District, so they're
Pretty flat.
way
busy.
in with Colchester right now, so we may not. He sounded like he was okay with the fact that we hadn't reached back out and talked to them lately,
He was
but,
giving us a courtesy.
yeah, but
So
that's,
we should at least.
you should
look
check
at-
in, you should,
know, if maybe it's not, maybe they're not gonna, maybe they'll say we don't have time.
Right,
to hear and
right.
dive into this.
and then the other one that has taken a look at. The building is Breadloaf was one of the original ones, they did an assessment in 2019.
and they were one of the 3 company architect firms that we interviewed.
Yeah.
We chose Black River, but it was Black River, Breadloaf, and a different, I forget, there was one other one. And the plus with Breadloaf is their architecture and engineering construction, so they can do the total
They
project,
can do the
whereas
whole project. Yeah.
Black River, we would have had to send out to bid to a construction firm.
So what do the for the OPM stuff, that's straightforward, the path we wanna go there. For the architect, we obviously need to get an architecture firm on board. Is that something we think we wanna wait until we have?
I think I'd like to. Get our OPM on board and
I
talk
was gonna
about,
say, that was my question, is that something we
Yeah,
wanna wait
that's
to do
kinda-
until we have an OPM on board so that they can?
Probably makes sense.
Even if they're not making recommendation, they can at least have visibility and input in the process to
Yeah.
advise us.
right, I had for my second one here to. Re-engage with Black River at some point, and
I mean, I guess it might be worth reaching out to them and saying, this is the path we're going, we're
Yeah.
looking to re-engage.
Yeah.
With you or some other architect,
Yeah.
we're gonna try to get an OPM on board, our time frame is likely probably April before we have
And-
money and stuff in place. So
Yes.
just extrapolating from the town meeting day, and the best case scenario would be. April sometime.
Yeah,
I would imagine that if we got an RFP out and we got. Options, we got. Some proposals together. That Art or someone would be okay to hop on board probably relatively quickly, so it wouldn't be like.
he said when he was here, well, we had other things going on too, and so forth, so
Yeah, we
who
might
knows where he is
we might have-
either, but
we might
it's
have,
been a while since we talked to him.
Waited long enough that he's got some
Yeah.
huge project going
Yeah.
on for a few years, yeah. So it sounds like we have like an idea of what we wanna do,
Yeah.
do we need to
So-
formalize anything right now, or what are we?
I think the next step is to, well, find enough of, as I guess Duncan's the one that's putting together this RFP is
I
that,
guess there's no reason we can't put together an RFP, right? Or does that
Sure.
need to be, like, does it need to be put out by an employer?
It needs
I
to
think-
be put out by the town, but I think the committee can write the,
If we get it all ready to go.
yeah, and then just say, okay, send this out and get it posted. Mhm.
you know, I think.
Matt, you write RFPs, right?
All the time.
You wanna give a
Template.
shot at hashing something out in all your spare time, since you did just say that you have 23-year-olds?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I'm super
They
happy.
help.
I'm super happy to write a draft RFP and bring it. Bring
Yeah,
it to the.
so I think what we're going for is, we were gonna, and you were part of this, but I think we wanna go, we wanna use Art's stuff as a guideline. But we don't necessarily wanna constrain ourselves to the path he set out, but we want someone who would work to propose a path for us and then walk us down that path.
Right,
And so whatever that looks like, they don't have to follow Art's proposed timelines and path, but we want someone who will propose a path to move forward and advise us through the process.
and
Does that
I,
make sense?
and I think it's, we'd really like to have someone that has some of the contacts.
Yeah, I think the flood
flooding
experience, we would like someone that has significant experience navigating a project in a floodplain, because that's gonna be
Yeah.
pretty critical. So that's gonna be those would be the two big pieces, someone who's gonna walk us through it and advise us and has high preference for someone who has floodplain experience.
Yeah, so specifically for the project manager against this project, I'm happy to write a RFP for that. And one of the things, it's probably worth asking Josh if the building's had an appraisal lately. I'd imagine that's an important piece of information for us to guide us on costing and where we start to nudge up against a potential massive spend that would be required.
Yeah, I mean, and the appraisal will be just the first step in kind of knowing the magnitude of where substantial renovation threshold is, so we kind of know. We'll know very
Yeah,
quickly if we're guaranteed to meet that threshold, or if there is the possibility of us working around that and not triggering all the flood mitigation stuff.
That's right. And even one in the last 5 or 7 years, like it's going to be well above, you know, if it's pre 2021, it's going to be well above that, but that would be really great guidance for us. So, I think we should just reach out and ask if there's been an appraisal lately.
Did I send Josh another email? Who would be, who is that a Josh question?
That,
I feel like, I
Planning
always
zone.
ask Josh, but I don't.
My guess is that there hasn't been, but
yeah, that's probably a Josh
I
question.
mean, yeah,
Poor Josh.
yeah,
That's
I
probably.
mean, I think,
Schedule send, 8 AM?
Yeah.
mean, I think-
We were just thinking, like, maybe I'll schedule this one in the morning.
I think that's a question Josh should be able to answer,
Sure.
yes or no.
Yeah.
We should figure
You
out
know.
what you should ask this person.
I'd be surprised if BlackRock didn't ask for one, or Black River.
A lot of the wording that I saw in there is saying that this is likely to be more than half of the value of the building, so we're gonna go that way. I never saw anything in their documentation that I said that said, you know, this is what it's worth and that's what the threshold level, and at $10 million, I don't think this is a $20 million building, so although the other part I was thinking about, when you're adding up that is the cost of meeting the FEMA requirements, part of the criteria for having to do the requirements. I mean, that
I ran into that.
gets a
No,
little
No,
circular
it's
there.
not. It depends how you. If you're gonna do them anyway,
Yeah,
whether you're required to or not.
Yeah.
Then they would be required to, so
And
if you're doing foundation work. With the idea to make the foundation stronger for flood stuff, but it's not specifically required because of the
Right.
threshold. Then it does factor in.
right.
If you are
That's kind of what.
right on the edge and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you're at 45%,
Yeah.
and if you get to 50,
Yeah,
it's
what-
substantial renovation,
what would
the
we
cost
do?
of that
Yeah.
flood mitigation does not
Yeah.
count. So I went through that in my house and I ended up doing it all, so. But, there is some nuance there about it. All right, I'm gonna ask Linda right now. And this building wouldn't be appraised as part of a reassessment because we don't pay tax on it,
Right.
it's a town, yeah,
Right.
right.
And I don't know how you do it. The other thing that was kind of necessary when they were, which I was an engineer and I can't believe that they would do this without having the information that they needed to start, but. The post office, they planned on filling up the basement and all of this stuff. FEMA says it has to be filled up to 1 foot above the base flood, the 100-year flood level. They have 3 different possible elevations for the post office floor. Two of them don't meet that criteria and one of them does. And it said, so they put all this in, and then in the engineering report it says, well, if it's below it, then we gotta do a dry flood proof it, which they said 2 sentences earlier was not possible. So I, you know, there's finding out what they wanna use for that elevation of the floor, and that's not as easy. I have some experience in that, although my experience is 50 years old, but I did work for the highway department one summer when I was in college, finding elevations of places.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we could contract separately,
Right,
that would be valuable, I mean.
but 2 of those were done by Button Surveys. And how did they come up with that number? The 2 of them they had are about 3 inches apart. My guess they did it with GPS.
I think, no, they shoot, they have control points and they shoot them.
No, I know that there's a US Geological Survey benchmark on the backside of the library that's at 319.099 feet or something like that.
That's what they use then, right?
So-
When they did my
so-
house, he used a benchmark over there, Button did it, and they
Yeah.
found it within like a 1/10 of an inch. But if
Right,
it
so why would they have 2 of them that were 3 inches apart, you know?
was it 3?
The site- I know they were saying the site is not uniformly
So-
level,
so
like the
that
back end of the property
That
is
that would be
lower
my.
Yeah.
down
Exactly.
than the front end of the property.
We've done flood, we've done.
Yeah.
Elevation certificates on a building in Waterbury, not the town center. And we had, when they shot one side, we got it and it didn't meet it.
Yeah.
And it's the average, and so by shooting the entire old farmhouse,
Oh, yeah.
it averaged like an inch above
Yeah.
instead of an inch below. So if
Yeah.
the building is out of level,
Yeah.
the 3 inches could be the threshold.
Yeah,
Two
right.
different doors.
It could be,
across the
could
building.
be. And then there was some other Rabideau plane or something that was, you know, that was 8 or 10 inches higher, which that's the one that would have met the requirement, and then 2 of them didn't.
Yeah.
And then the other thing they were gonna do is they're gonna add 2-3 inches of concrete back at the loading dock area. How do they know what the level of that is? They had to go if they don't.
You know, when I talk to the folks in the post office, that's the area that water comes in. And I'm wondering if that's the just 2 or 3 inch discrepancy in the survey.
Yeah. It could be, I mean,
That's a
there's,
good point. That's exactly where they said the water came in. They said it came in a few inches, but it covered that by like an inch, but was always a couple inches below the post office. Okay, well, so I work with Chris all the time, who I think was the surveyor who did it. I can run it by him. He seems to remember everything.
Yeah,
So
you
he'll
probably know.
have an idea of where we're at, and if it's something we need to do more work on, or if there's a simple explanation and we can just.
yeah, we need to agree on what that level is. and
Yeah,
what
we
they're
need to
gonna
have
do.
a number,
Yes, and,
not a range or
Yeah, right.
or a couple numbers.
right,
Okay, so,
so that's, you know, so now you can come back to I guess maybe we have to some extent here, you know, about I guess we've already talked about that.
yeah, so we got a path
Okay,
forward
okay.
on,
One.
Matt's gonna work on an RFP.
Yeah.
That'll get us boogieing on that, you know, maybe not boogieing totally, but relative to our
Mhm.
standard case over the last year. And then we can get that RFP out. Once we do that, we'll kind of then formally contact, I guess, a architect. Do we wanna start considering, we wanna reach out to Black River ahead of time and tell them
I-
our paths, so they know?
Yeah,
what's coming?
absolutely, I mean, if we.
Who wants to do that? Who has
Contacts,
a contact with them?
I don't have anything.
I haven't had any contact aside from our first meeting. Amy, do you know?
I mean,
I mean, we can find,
Yeah, he's John Himmelgarn is the name of the architect. I can
We can reach out.
pass it along
You wanna-
to Kara or
Yeah.
um,
that works.
Sure. Yeah.
Do we want to, assume that we would go with Black River, or are we not gonna make that assumption right now? Should we reach out to
You might
Brett?
wanna talk with them
You
first.
might wanna talk with them, make sure they can do it.
Okay.
It seems to me,
Assuming they can do it, is that the path we wanna go, or do we think there's value in also exploring the design build option with Breadloaf? So I'm not leaning one or the other, but I think.
I'm not
brought that
either,
up,
I mean,
so.
I'm. On one hand, I think it would have been a good choice to go with someone that could do the whole project, and what's the cost now to switch horses in the middle of the stream?
Yeah,
That Black River has the experience.
my hunch is that we're changing the scope of the project so much that if we're gonna switch directions,
It's a good time to
now
do
would
it,
be the time to do it, whether we want to or not, I guess I don't really have an
Yeah.
opinion on that.
I
The
guess,
design build, I know that in my experience, like the pricing. Kind of expertise of an architect always just inherently lags. That of a contract, if the contract isn't design build firm, simply because they're not doing it, they're always pressing the project, and then they're kind of getting at the end of the project, they're going, so they're always. Like a year behind on that relative to
Yeah.
a design build.
And
firm,
if
just
we
because
have-
of the visibility.
If we have a good PM, they're gonna be all over that pricing, in my experience.
Yeah, good point.
And maybe you wanna make that decision after you get your project manager and say, what
Yeah.
if, should we reach back out to
Yeah.
Black River and then hand that task to them
And-
and say,
Perfect.
you know,
Cool.
here's,
Alright, so
here's
let's
what they
do-
gave us before, what can we
Wait.
still use, or.
So do you
Yeah.
wanna not reach out at all?
Well, you know, one thing that Art was, and I'm not sure, I disagreed with him at the time, and I think I still do. He said, you know, the first thing we need to do is have someone come in and assess the building and find out what's wrong with it. And I think we've done that 3 times, and hopefully we could start with my list here and give that to, I mean, if we need to do anything more, I'm not sure we need to hire somebody that
If
can't.
there is holes in the stuff we've established, we can patch them, we can figure that out.
Yeah, I kind of think so, but, you know. Art didn't know what we had at the time that
Sure,
he said that.
hasn't reviewed this.
And he suggested, we mentioned that Breadloaf had come in and done an assessment 5-6 years ago. And he says, well, they're a good firm, maybe we'll get them just to update theirs, and I guess if we decided we wanted to go in that direction, maybe. We would give them everything we got and say, you know, you see anything else.
So our path is really to get the OPM, get an OPM on board,
I think that's the first step, and then we'll decide what the next step is.
think that's reasonable. Mike, you wanna go on to talk about your,
Oh, I talked about my windows. Well,
I'm still waiting on Pella estimates.
yeah, well, you know, some of this I said the other day, or the last meeting, was that, you know, we had, by the time it gets escalated up with all the contingencies and stuff, it was, you know, $590,000 to replace the
Yeah.
windows. And I went to this energy fair in Waterbury one day, I was down there and I saw a sign, and I talked to this lady from there, who I think was actually the owner of the business, or she and her husband. And she gave me a whole stack of stuff and so forth for these interior storm windows. I've got several brochures from them. I got, this is a picture of one of their guys installing the windows, so I can kind of see what they look like. They would put a divider at where the windows divide. They even got pieces to look at here. She gave me some of these. And they have
That's obviously not our building, but it looks oddly.
it does look a
Like
lot
our
like it,
windows.
and to install them, they have the channel like this, it gets mounted at the top. It's a adhesive strip that sticks up, and then you put a few screws in it to make sure it stays there. And then the windows are framed with something like this, and they're,
Oh, cool.
so the glass goes in here.
Man, you gotta check these out, it's like a oddly elegant and ingenious solution.
And
That's
they,
awesome.
when they,
It's just a felt, kind of, or not a felt, what do you call it, a bristle seal?
fuzzy stuff, yeah.
But, the entire window, I'm assuming the top doesn't, it probably doesn't have that, but it's still got.
I think it does, actually, I think that goes up into here as well.
Okay, so it's got
Top
the-
and bottom.
So it's got like little leaf springs in there, and every side of the window has up a half an inch of play where it can compress. And be totally sealed up,
And
so.
when they measure the windows, they come in and measure the inside of the cases, top, bottom, or whoever does.
Here,
And then they come in with a carpenter square and put in. And slide it up and see how much gap there is and figure out
Make
whether the
sure.
windows, if the windows aren't square, they'll make windows that aren't square. So once they get,
Show, that's a.
and they have a list of projects, people, pretty impressive list of places that have used their windows, like. This old house, US Military Academy, West Point,
I know you're probably
Central
driving.
Matt probably can't see us.
whole mess of. Whole, you know, the Rutland,
And it's a pretty elegant solution.
Rutland Free Library.
Most of our-
In Antietam National Battlefield, and there's a whole list of historical societies and museums and so forth in here that have used their windows. They,
Seems like an option worth exploring.
their standards are Chloe glass. And you can get them without that and save a little money if you want to, but it seems like a good idea.
Right, implemented savings.
So the quote I got, I did get a quote from her. I came down and measured a couple of these windows and I tried to, some of them,
Are they all consistent or no?
I didn't do all of them, but
Mine
they're,
were very consistent.
you know, but if they're not, I mean, she said.
I think for pricing-
She
for
said,
pricing,
she said within an inch is good enough for pricing. So to do every window in this building. For them coming up and measuring them, coming up and delivering them was $56,495. And I don't think we're gonna do all of them. If you break it down per windows, the big windows like these were $875.10. There's some smaller windows over the post office roof, and those they can do all in one piece.
Huh.
So they're a lot cheaper. Those are $387. There's one window over the vault that's a little bit shorter that I had to guess at from the outside, but that's about $750. One thing that we could do, which I don't think is a good idea, but in the rooms where we have a drop ceiling, we could only go up that high and not all the way to the top.
Which might not.
I don't think that's a good idea. She didn't think that was a good idea. I talked to Kara about that. Kara thought that was a good idea, so
Just.
so I asked him to quote it.
Just going to
She
that.
didn't, you know, just go up to where the shade mount is up there.
That doesn't sound like a good plan.
I don't think so.
Kind of defeats the
I was
point.
gonna say, wouldn't, yeah.
Anyway, so those are what they cost for a living. They deliver them. They want to bring them up, it says in their van and trailer, and 2 loads they would need to fill all of these. It's about $2,000 a trip, so
2 trips.
2 trips, which is one thing that we could do, like, if we wanted to do the living spaces
Well,
down
we're-
here
We're
now.
not gonna save money by saving.
We're not gonna
a
say,
trip, So.
it's by bringing it all at once. We have to, we'd have to get the windows measured, they'll come up and measure them. But that was gonna cost us $6,537 for them to come up and measure all the windows.
Seems worth
But
it.
they said if part of what it says, if they measure them and it's wrong, they'll fix it. Otherwise,
They
it's
guarantee it,
Yeah.
But she also, when I was on the phone, says if we have somebody up here to measure them, they'll get on the phone. At no charge and walk them through the process and so forth to do that, so. I still think the 65 should be worth it,
I think that's money well spent.
yeah, and if you go, you'd save about $96 a window if you went with clear glass rather than the low E, but I think that's, so that's. On top of their quote, they are here somewhere. They are Energy Star rated, whatever. Sure, I got all kinds of stuff here. Where's the picture on this? No, I don't see it, but. When I was looking at their Energy Star sheet, which I've got in here somewhere, I came across another one. This is a company called Quantra Panel. They are also Energy Star rated. It looks like pretty close to the same
Comparable.
comparable. And one of their distributors is Curtis Lumber in Burlington. So that's
Worth exploring.
I would think the price, even if we go with half of them, is gonna be over the $15,000, where we're probably gonna need to go out for quotes on.
Yeah,
So that's a second one. There, I did just on the internet, put in interior storm windows, and there's some other companies as well. So I think we can find some others. I don't know anything about how these, I kind of like the way these came in here, but, they were just, she was telling me, I think it wasn't on this list, but they just finished a big job down there in Connecticut. For the Colt Firearms Company down there that, they did their whole old factory, and a lot of historic buildings are doing them because they're. All they do, they glue this in place, and somehow they put that bar across the middle. And the windows just go in, you swing them in, and they drill two little holes and put some pins so they don't fall out.
it's-
And, one thing I was worried about, I know that people in the building now like to open the windows in the summertime. And she says, well, these are easy to take out. And she said, what I would recommend is to save the storage box if they get delivered in, and you can just slide them into the slots they've got for them in there to keep. To take, if we wanted to do some before we get the air conditioning system fixed and so forth, it might be something they'd want to do, but it might, it could be something we could jump ahead on and use at least part of the windows if we did part of them at a time. So that's my spiel on windows, but I've got a lot of
I
other
mean, I'm a
information.
fan of like putting brand new windows in and being done with it, but I also think that if these windows are structurally sound, and
Yeah.
there's no rot and all that stuff, that this is a good option.
Yeah,
I think
and I think that some of the windows, I was in here looking around in the window where the fire escape goes, it doesn't look real good. So I don't know what other ones are. It's also a huge amount of money if we needed to take out and then do some repair work or something on some of them.
Yeah, I mean, even if we were to spend another $25,000 or $30,000 fixing windows.
Yeah,
We're
still,
still well ahead of the game. I just found a study from. What's the name of the company? Not a company, sorry. Pacific Northwest National Laboratory studying interior low storm windows. And it says that the conclusion is basically that they, after their test stuff, they saved about 10% on average heating costs in all the structures they did it in, and it increases the U or decreases the U factor of an average single pane non-low U window by about half.
Yeah.
That's pretty significant. And then it says air sealing varied so widely, no conclusions could be drawn.
yeah, the other,
So the air sealing for us is probably gonna be a big portion of it. So it seems like, I mean, as a dollar per return on it, it's a good
right.
option. They don't look terrible. I was expecting them to look ridiculous and they
Yeah.
don't seem to look
Yeah.
ridiculous.
no, they look like, and, a lot of the places they have are these historic buildings that wanna retain the look of the old windows that are there. I'm not sure I'm terribly excited about looking at our storm windows we have on the outside, but
I mean, I guess we could, in part of the option, if we did this, is the storm windows on the outside could
Might
come
go
off, right? And
might go away
we
at some
could go
point.
back
We
to
don't,
the-
we don't have to deal with
we
that
could
at
leave
this
it out.
point.
Okay, so. Yeah, this is great, Mike, thanks. I guess we're not gonna make any of these decisions until we get like a full project.
No, but I mean,
This isn't something we're gonna do separate from a major project. Not
It
at this
could be.
point. It could be.
it could be, I mean, if we were to say, that's like. $40,000, $50,000 for all the windows, I don't think actually that we may not do all of the windows anyway, I mean. The proposal, the previous proposal is 4 of the windows on that side were gonna go away when we put the fire escape in.
Yeah.
And I know now if you go around the town office downstairs, they've got plastic taped over the windows, so. We went and did the ones that are in plastic, it'll look better and hopefully be better than they are, that we might think about doing part of them at least, ahead of any major
Where
project.
do we wanna go with this from here?
But I still think we have to just, at this point, it's something to keep in the background.
Okay.
And when we get started on the project, I hope people, I didn't get my second spreadsheet out there, but I'll talk to Duncan and get that somewhere where people can look at it, and I hope you'll. Because this is my first cut at it, I mean, it's
Yeah,
obviously not, I know it's not perfect, but I think it's a start and getting a list of what we can do and where we might go, and I hope. People will take a look at both of them and, if there's changes that I've missed, we can certainly. Fix either of them up. I mean, the first one, I think, just gives us some ideas of what various parts of them cost that we can. Art said when he was here, one thing we needed to do was just set a cost limit. We need to set a number and. That we need to, and I'm not willing to pull a number out of the air without having some idea what we can get done with it.
I guess in my mind, the one hard cost limit that we don't know at this point would possibly be the 50% of
Yes,
the substantial renovation
yeah,
threshold.
yeah,
I mean, if we're gonna go over that, that's gonna escalate the cost per what we get pretty substantially, so that. I mean, if that comes back, or like, if this building, if for some reason this building increases like $1 million and we have 500,000, then
Yeah.
maybe we ignore that threshold.
yeah,
But if-
right,
That seems like that would be the one hard threshold that would be worth
Yeah.
establishing. Maybe whether we stick to it or not.
Yeah. The other thing that I heard, one of the other members of our committee say is that. FEMA doesn't require us to do anything. They have recommendations, which are zoning requirements. So,
Yeah, I mean,
so that's, I mean, I don't know that we can say we're gonna
even if
ignore
we
them,
changed, if we
but.
changed our zoning and didn't comply with them, though. The recourse is that they could potentially boot us from the national flood.
Okay, so that's the part I
So
didn't
there
understand.
There isn't.
Do we have national flood insurance on this building?
No, but it doesn't matter if this building is or not, if we allow a building to be done in non-compliance, it can put the entire.
Whole
town's
town.
Occasion,
Okay.
which would go for every private structure.
Yeah, that wouldn't be. good.
Or it can change.
That was a
It can
question
change our
I had.
Adjustment rate or all that, there's not. It's true that they can't legally make you do it, but there is.
They can make it
recourse to
difficult
make
if you
it
don't.
So non-advantageous yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's unreasonable.
Okay.
It's not a reasonable path to think we can just change the zoning and not follow it.
But I think,
I also think because based on the developments in the path that. The recreation committee is going through to change stuff in the,
my wife's
Yeah.
involved in that.
I don't think that,
We'll go.
even if we wanted to go that path, I don't
Yeah,
think that would fly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Mike, this is great. And I really love the focus on the capital project here. Like, I think that's such an important aspect. There's other stuff that is certainly ongoing, and Duncan and Josh are doing a great job. But the refocus on the goal here, I think is just awesome. I applaud you for it, and thank you.
So again, I hope people will look at this and see where we need to
yeah,
adjust it and I. These are
I think
the
it's-
one that didn't get put into the.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I think this is posted, is this, this is, I
That one's the one that didn't get posted.
think, I've seen that though, you did you email?
I think
that
I
to
did.
us or something?
I don't. But I think. Going back to my open meeting law stuff, I don't think there's anything wrong with me emailing
You
that.
can email it, we just can't all talk about
You
it.
just can't all talk about it until we get to the next meeting,
Yeah.
so. I think maybe I'll do that. I'll just send that out.
Just make sure
I'll send them both out.
Make a note.
Make a note, please do not, please not,
Don't
discuss
respond
this
at all.
other in
Yeah.
the meeting. And I'll touch base with Duncan again to see that he gets it out, at some point on
Cool.
the other.
So what are we thinking for a date for our next meeting, and is there any items we want to put on the agenda, or is that up in the air and we don't have anything that we need to schedule a meeting for at this time?
Well, I think ask Matt when he's gonna get his RFP done. I
I'll
think once we,
I'll send it out tonight.
okay, so I think maybe we. If,
I'm not gonna hold you to that.
I,
Making the rest of us look bad.
if,
So
if
two weeks from now,
we schedule a meeting, for the 2 weeks from tonight, I'm gonna be in South Carolina.
well, we can do it a month from now too.
So maybe a month, maybe skip the next one and. do
Cause it
one
might
month.
make sense to see how the budget vote goes
That-
on town meeting day, and
that's
like
also-
what kind of mood is the
Yeah, right,
community in
That
terms
also
of
puts us
spending
after
money.
That
puts
puts
us after the.
after town, no,
After town meeting day,
Yeah,
yeah.
it does,
and then,
okay,
Okay, well, yeah, shoot that all out to us, Matt, when you get a chance. Your drop dead date is 5 weeks from now, I think. So you don't have to do it tonight if you don't want,
and
but you can.
I think there's
I have
no
so many
reason that once he's got it done, he couldn't distribute it to the committee.
Yeah, you can send it out to all of us.
And we just can't all get into the discussion of
We can all
changing.
email them back individually if
Yeah.
they have any critiques or
Yeah,
anything, but.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that would be the most effective way to do things, so I'll shoot an email out to everybody.
Great. Anyone got anything else? So we'll count on a meeting, the second Wednesday in March,
and what,
Be
which would be,
and what do we want?
312.
and then, I guess our main item right now would be the review of the preliminary RFP
Yeah,
for,
that would be the main thing, and then, you know, some of the other stuff we were looking at earlier, if any of that comes up where we have to do
Yeah.
anything on it, I don't know.
what do we call it, the OPM preliminary RFP for the TCL. We're starting to sound like a military organization with the acronyms here, but.
Yeah.
I think that's all we have now, and then I'm sure other stuff will pop up, right, so.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Anyone have anything else? Matt, you got
So-
anything good?
No, motion to dismiss.
Got a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
all right.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. See Matt, have a good evening. You almost
Thanks,
home,
all.
or are you still driving?
I am at the light. I'll wave to you on the way by.
Just in time. All right, see ya.